Welcome. We're live streaming and broadcasting through 3 internet audio radio networks, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and iHeartRadio. We're also on audio visual on YouTube. We're at the Atlantis in Reno, Nevada for the Republican Men's Club of Northern Nevada. I'm Ray Rocha. I'm president of the club. We have a great program today, and we want to start with the pledge that we've already done. We've introduced some of the guests, and with that in mind, we're slightly ahead, which is good. I'm going to have John Eppolito is going to do a 2-minute recap of an issue that probably will come up undoubtedly at the legislature, and that's opponents to Common Core. John?
Thank you very much, and Ray, thank you for allowing me 2 minutes to speak. I have 4 children in the schools, and I'm a former K-12 teacher. I've spent way too much time researching Common Core. And I know many people on the right don't like the fact that there's no local control of what's taught anymore, and the Second Amendment has been changed in the new Common Core line textbooks. We just had the 2 most qualified people on the Common Core Validation Committee come out and speak in Nevada. One is a Democrat. The other one might also be a Democrat. They don't like Common Core because the standards are poor. Nothing to do with the takeover. They're for national standards. They're just not for Common Core. For example, the math standards leave us over 2 years behind high-achieving countries by graduation. The English language arts standards, they go against decades, probably a century of research in teaching reading and writing. The SAT has been dumbed down to align with Common Core. All the AP classes are in the process of being changed to align with Common Core. The architect of Common Core is now the president of the College Board, AP, SAT. The AP US History class is totally anti-American. The RNC has come out against it. Many Democrats don't like it. In the new AP US History class, none of this stuff, not much of the stuff leading up to dropping the bomb is taught, but America's values are questioned for dropping the atomic bomb. You cannot support Common Core without supporting AP US History. It's all one big mess. Dr. Stotsky is one of the speakers that was just here. She's responsible for the Massachusetts Miracle, the highest standards in the country and the highest performing students in the country. When you compare Massachusetts to other countries, they're right at the top. After 2 or 3 years of Common Core, Massachusetts' 3rd or 4th grade reading levels dropped the most of any state in the country. That's what we have to look forward to. Dr. Milgram is responsible for the highest standards in the country. Several states, starting with California. Once the California standards failed, the state of California went to Dr. Milgram. Him and 3 others from Stanford rewrote the standards. 14 years of improved performance. Now we're right back to what's already failed in California. I have 3 handouts per table. One of them talks about what happened in Carson City. Last week, the Department of Ed, they performed very poorly. They would not show up the second night. This lady flew in from Boston, and the Department of Ed wouldn't show up the second night. Our website's on there, nevadansagainstcommoncore.com. And I want to say one more thing. In our state, the problem is, and I'm a Republican, the problem is Governor Sandoval, Dale Urquiaga, who's the superintendent of public instruction, and Elaine Wynn, who's the president of the school board. She was appointed. That's the problem, not the solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. By the way, all of the speakers, after they finish, are going to have question and answer. We're going to have you one at a time come up to the front here so we can get it on audio and visual, asking them questions. With that in mind, great honor to introduce Senator Gustavson. It's been assembly person and a senator. He's going to discuss from the Senate side some of the potential hot issues facing the legislature coming up. Don?
Thank you, Ray. Is that what I'm supposed to talk about today? Oh, okay. Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for being here, every one of you. I appreciate that. This is a great crowd, and just coming out there loud. Can you all hear me in the back there? Good. Okay. No. Okay. Okay. Speak soft. I'll be a little bit louder too here. Okay. Thank you. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming here today. And also I'd like to thank all of you for getting out to vote, to put the Republicans in the majority. We're very thankful for that. Thank you. I will have to give President Obama a lot of credit for that due to what he has done and is doing to our country. If it wasn't for you turning out to vote and the president's actions, we would not have seen the red wave that we just saw. Democrats now know what their leadership of their party stands for. They also do not like what is happening in our country. Fortunately for us, they did not turn out to vote. The liberal Democrat leadership has spent enough time destroying our country and state, and it's now time for us to take our state and country back. We also now have the majority in both houses in Congress. It is up to you and me to keep them on the right track. Contact them and let them know your views on the issues that are important to you. Just remember, this majority could turn around in 2 years if we do not show our voters that we can govern and make a difference in our state and our country. As you know, the governor just gave his State of the State message. I'm looking forward to working with the Governor Sandoval and Senator Roberson and the Assembly members on some of the governor's proposals that deal with conservative Republican-ish principles. We must do what we can to bring more companies and jobs to Nevada, but raising taxes on businesses is not the answer. It is a well-known fact that by lowering taxes on businesses will bring more companies to Nevada than by raising their taxes. I will tell you right now that I do not and will not support a $1 billion tax increase. Maybe I missed it, but I did not hear the governor say anything about performance audits in all of our government agencies. He may have plans on doing so, I don't know. But we need to hire outside auditing firms to do this, and I guarantee you that their cost would be more than covered by the savings that we'd see. How many business owners do we have here? Several, I thought so. How many of you are willing to pay more in taxes? One. Okay, thank you. We appreciate that. We can use the help. How about a modified business tax or gross receipts tax? We must see more accountability in our state government before we ask you, your businesses, and the taxpayer for more money. I know the businesses do not pay taxes, but you have to collect it. You're the tax collector for the state and counties. Did you get a 15% increase in your pay? Anyone here? Do you believe the state of Nevada needs a 15% increase in their pay? No? If not, you need to let your legislators know. And if you do, you need to let them know that also. The governor is proposing that we increase your business license fee and a tax based on your gross profits. You make more money, you pay more money. Do you believe that you should be penalized for prospering? No. The voters just overwhelmingly, by an 80%, voted down a $1 billion plus margins tax. That's enough about tax. I don't want to really upset your lunch here, but yeah, let's talk a little bit about education. Are you happy with our educational system? Clark County says that they need at least 26 new schools now due to overcrowding. Washoe County is asking for 3 more schools. What did they do last time that they had this problem? They went to multi-track and used portable classrooms and solved their overcrowding problems. When our recession hit, thousands of people left our state with their children, and with them leaving more classroom space in the schools. Then the school districts started gradually eliminating multi-track to the point that they filled those rooms up again. What is wrong with going back to multi-track for now until our economy improves more? Once we allow the freedom of choice, a common sense approach, we may not need to build more government schools. The school districts could temporarily use some of the money, or the school district could use some of the many empty buildings throughout Clark and Washoe counties if needed. Let's spend our money wisely and put it where it'll do the most good. Competition in business works great. It gives us a choice of where we can buy what we need, and it brings down the cost. In order to improve our school system without throwing more money at it, we must add the opportunity for choice and competition. The teachers union, thank you. The teachers unions hate it because they know it works well and they will lose power and their high salaries. They are now asking again for all-day mandatory kindergarten in all schools. Whether you believe in all-day kindergarten or not, number one, we will not have the facilities to accommodate more students. Studies also show that full-day kindergarten is not achieving what they have led us to believe that it would. Number two, we also do not have the qualified teachers with early childhood development education training, which means that they would be using more unqualified substitute teachers to teach your children. We must have qualified teachers in our classrooms that are trained in the subject matter that they are teaching. I strongly support merit pay for those teachers that do a great job. Now, in Senate Bill 25 being proposed in this session by the Department of Education, they want the state superintendent to start coordinating educational programs for children from birth through pre-kindergarten. That's coming. We all know, heard about it's going to come. Well, it's already being proposed in Senate Bill 25. No wonder they think that we need new schools. They're already short 500 teachers in Clark County now. Where do they think they're going to find these teachers for more programs, let alone to fill the vacancies that they already have? I think we need to take another look at some of these education proposals. My constituents are saying that when you show us that you're capable of doing a better job of educating our children, then we may consider giving more money to our school districts. We must have higher standards in our schools. Students need to have a longer school day. This getting out of school at 2-something in the afternoon has got to stop. Also, I do believe in standards, but not Common Core standards. Common Core is not the answer. We must not give up our local control of our schools. Underperforming schools should be closed at the end of this school year, not the next school year. Then they should be turned into charter schools or sold to private schools. Why put our children through one more year of not learning? I agree with the governor when he says that we must reform collective bargaining. Just a little common sense will do by allowing our principals to get rid of the worst teachers and keep the best ones. This last hired, first fired policy has got to stop. Just ask a former teacher of the year in Clark County why they were fired. I am very strongly opposed to the appointment of school board members, as I am to the appointment of judges. We need to see some accountability, not only in our education system, but in our own government. I'll be happy to work with the governor and the Senator Roberson and the Assembly on some of these key issues that will help reform our collective bargaining laws, school choice, tax reform, reading by grade 3, but not tax increases. Enough about taxes and education. What about voter ID? Is there anybody in this room that is against requiring someone showing a government-issued identification card to vote? I didn't think so. I didn't see a big raise of hands there. Oh, is that one? Oh, no, no. We are going to need your help with this. We will need as many people as possible to send letters and emails to your legislators and to the governor. We know it was work. Handwritten letters work better. Emails, we get so many of them, it's hard to see them, but we do look at them. Most of us do. Well, maybe some of us do. I don't know about most, but some of us do. So thank you. God bless you. God bless Nevada. God bless the USA. Thank you.
Like I said, we're going to allow questions once all of our speakers have given their views. The next individual is in the assembly. I'm sure you've all heard of her. Smile, smile. Michele Fiore. We welcome Michele from Las Vegas.
Thank you. It is a true pleasure to be here. And I was reading that because of Bill Conrad, we have all of this great technical support now, and that's exciting. And it's very exciting to be here in the North to share with you my thoughts on the state of the state and what's coming up in the session. And I'll tell you, since we have Twitter Live and Ray over there and Washington over there, I just secured an hour on Saturday mornings on 720 KDON. So we're going to be talking through session about what's happening in session. And that's where it's going to be. So I don't know how far KDON 720 AM reaches, but that begins this Saturday from 7 a.m. to 8. Thanks. I am almost certain that the majority of you in this room know what's been going on in our Assembly caucus. Is that correct? All right, so we don't have to go into that. But I will be here for questions and answers later. But I will tell you that there are 25 members of our Republican Assembly caucus. And so with that majority in this historical opportunity that we have, our feet should be held to the fire. The State of the State speech, I want you to understand, we have a Republican-controlled legislature due to Nevadans, and that is both Democrat and Republican, because even our Nevadan Democrats are sick and tired of being overtaxed and overregulated and killing their jobs. So that is something I have to tell you. When you look at our results and you look at the ballot initiatives, they said no on the mining tax. Nevadans across the board, 80%. They said no on the margins tax. So with that in mind, I want to go to the state of the state. The people of Nevada spoke loud and clear, no. I want you to understand I have 100% respect for our governor. Governor Brian Sandoval is an amazing man with an amazing resume. And understand that this state of the state and this whole last year's budget that he worked on, he worked with expecting Democrats to control the assembly, hoping Republicans would take the Senate. So this budget that he has proposed, and I have literally in my truck outside in the parking lot, the 3 volumes, because I'm a paper girl. I like looking at paper with my team, of the budget. And on November 4th, when the Republicans took over the Assembly and the Republicans took over the Senate, November 5th, it was time for our governor to gather his men and women and flush that budget right down the drain. That's what I think. His men and women that guide him and direct him on taxation and regulation in our state basically should have showed him the proof of the pudding. 80% of Nevadans are sick and tired, including our Democrats. And our governor, you have to understand, is the CEO of this state. He governs all of us, not just us in the room. He governs Democrats and Libertarians and Independents. He's got a big job. But everyone, well, 80%, told our governor, the CEO of the state, no more taxes, no on mining tax, and no on the gross receipts tax. This business license is basically a gross receipts tax, period. This business license will reflect the gross income of a business, and that is not okay. I have received several phone calls, meeting requests, emails, I can't keep up with them, of how disappointed our business community is with this state of the state. So that's what I would do. And understand it's not over just because the state of the state speech said that he's proposing $1.2 billion in tax hikes. That's going to take 28 assembly members to vote yes on increasing our taxes. And I can stand here before you today and tell you there are 12 assembly members, and we are working on 3 more, that will be pressing the no button when it comes to raising your taxes. Now, once upon a time when I was the chairwoman of taxation, and then the non-chairwoman of taxation, and then the chairwoman of taxation, and then the non-chairwoman of taxation, I promised a fair hearing. And I stand by that. I absolutely promise a fair hearing, because we do have to create revenue, and we can do that by revenue reform, by tax reform, by looking at where wasteful funds are and putting it to good use. There's a lot of bills that we can propose without increasing your taxes and the business community taxes. I don't know if I'll ever get that chair back, but I will tell you it doesn't matter, because on the floor we need 15, and you guys are going to help me hold the 15's feet to the fire. And that means coming up to session. That means talking to your electeds, and that means doing the right thing by the people. I have to let you know, I attended a meeting yesterday here in Carson City, and we talked about our lands and our water. Don, can I have that big stack of paper right there? I'm gonna go, thank you. I'm gonna go a little off key here, because these are some of the issues that I want to talk about some of the issues we're gonna face during session, and it's guns, drugs, and money. Okay, so money is the taxation, guns we'll get to, and we're gonna get to drugs. But yesterday I attended a meeting in Carson City. Senator Gustavson was with me. There was a few other electeds there, and we were talking about our lands and our water rights and where we are today. And where we are today, obviously you guys know, the federal government has about 84% of our land. The federal government, the BLM, if you go to the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, our water, just this stack of papers is what the BLM claims to own on our water rights. That's not the other stack that the United States of America claims to own of Nevada's water rights. This session, I can almost guarantee you, is not going to end in June. I can almost guarantee a special session, because this is the first time in 85 years the Republican has control. And we cannot afford to fix things to make sure Nevada moves forward for all the people in Nevada. That's our lands, that's our water, that's our property. The disturbing part of the meeting yesterday was a few of my peers came up with the old adage, well, you know, gosh darn it, the federal government, well, that's how it's been, and case law this, and well, it's an uphill battle, and you know what I heard? I heard blah, 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 blah. I heard no solutions. And I'm going to tell you that all the case law and all of the previous predecessors and today's electeds made the law. We've put you in this predicament. We've agreed to give our land away. We've agreed, obviously someone signed off on giving the federal government all of our water rights of the state. We've agreed to it. Electeds, myself, Don, not us per se, but electeds, federal elected, state electeds. And it is time to undo what we've done. But we can't do it without your help and without your support. And that means getting more active, and that means getting more involved. A lot of times they get a pass on the floor because you guys don't know what's in the bills because you don't get to read them. And that's a big problem. So with this radio station, along with I have begun an assembly policy committee, which everyone is invited to get newsletter updates. It basically is going to summarize the bills, what's in it, and what does it mean to you. And it's thank you. And in some of these bills, just changing a word to shall or must changes the whole bill, changes the whole language on the bill. Most bills shouldn't be more than 30, 40 pages unless we're changing NAC codes and NRS, and we have to match everything. But if they are, you're going to hear about them, and you're going to hear the meat and potatoes on each section with this Assembly Policy Committee. So we're putting the groundwork in, and we're going to do that to make sure that I give you guys the tools to know what's happening in each bill. So along with this budget of our governor, he had some great things to add. Opportunity scholarships, which basically is school vouchers without changing the Constitution. Along with being a legislator, sometimes our bills can get held hostage if we don't, and they call it compromise, and that becomes an issue. Tell her we'll call her back. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, then we won't call her back. So understand, I want you guys to be the compromisers, not your electeds. I want you guys to let your electeds know what you're okay with compromising with. Are you okay with compromising, giving your whole state away to the federal government? Because that's what's happening. That's exactly what's happening right now. Are you okay with the federal government taking 2.7 million acres and just fencing it off? And fencing off part of a railroad that goes through, so now what's going to happen? It's going to get more expensive to get more trucks on the roads if those railroads can't go through. And this is northern Nevada I'm talking about. That's why I'm here. A lot of times people think because I'm in Las Vegas that Clark County doesn't understand what goes on up here. Oh, we understand. And we understand well, and we voted down that mining tax because if mining decides to get up and go, Clark County, because they have the largest population, will be paying for the school systems in the rurals with mining gone. So we're aware, and I want you to understand that. Guns, schools, and drugs. We're working hard to get our firearms rights back this session, and we're going to need your help again, just like last session. And we have a Republican-controlled legislature. There should be absolutely zero compromise on any gun issues, period. Like I said to you, our governor and his men and women have worked diligently and really hard on what he proposed in his State of the State, not expecting to have what he has. He's been given a gift, and he doesn't have to compromise now. And neither do you, and neither do we. Every time he mentioned throwing millions and millions into that school, I thought about a mental health screening program that we passed last session. I voted against it, and this is why I voted against it. Can you imagine having a psychiatrist do a mental screening on a 13-year-old girl who has like a big pimple and her boyfriend just broke up with her? What do you think that psychiatrist is going to say? Oh my God, this girl, she just wants to kill herself. She needs to be on some psychotropic drug. 13. Now all of a sudden when she's 18 and she goes for a concealed weapon, they ask her for her medical information, which should not be, but they do. They ask. And unless you catch it, you sign it away that they can see your MIB, which is your Medical Information Bureau. Now all of a sudden this 13-year-old, just because she had a pimple and her boyfriend broke up with her, got mentally screened and prescribed some psychotropics that are horrible. Psychotropic drugs is going to be a big issue for me this session because they keep blaming gun violence, and what they're not looking at is the psychiatry and the psychiatrists that put many people, including our vets, including children, on medications without scientific proof that they work. So you're having a bad day. Thanks. So you're having a bad day, and all of a sudden, you need a Xanax. Or, God forbid, if you're insubordinate, which you know I've gotten labeled with being insubordinate, I bet you they'd like for me to take a psychotropic drug. However, I am a big healthy nut and a homeopathic, so my drug of choice is powdered vitamin C, and that's my antibiotic. Water and walking in the air, and that generally gets rid of a headache. So drugs, you need to pay attention because, it sounds warm and fuzzy. Oh, let's stop a problem before it's created. We have an 8th grader who, we think is crazy because her boyfriend broke up with her. Now all of a sudden she's on medication. These are big issues. And in the state of the state, psychiatric, the word psychiatric was mentioned, and I'll be doing a big breakdown with the Assembly Policy Committee on what that actually means. And we have a lot of involuntary commitment happening in the state of Nevada. In Las Vegas, we have a veteran that's in there drugged, the doors are locked, there's no label on the building. These are some big issues. And our predecessors haven't noticed it. Maybe they don't even know what's really happening. But these are things we have to fix. And I can't fix them, Don can't fix them, and our other conservative electeds can't fix them without you guys. Standing with us, standing behind us, and campaigning to do what's right for the people. Not to do what's right, to take the path of least resistance and get along and have lunch with the big boys. So, I'm going to ask each and every one of you for this session to please put your big girl panties on or your big boy boxers and help us fight for you. Thank you.
You're all going to have the opportunity to ask questions, which we encourage. But before we do, and we will have the 50-50 drawing at 1 o'clock, there's the International Goodwill Ambassadors has an event coming up this Thursday, which are going to honor Carol DiCarlo, that's president of the National Federation. And it's going to be at May Herbert's house at 1045 Union Street in Sparks. And they've moved the time because we have the Central Committee meeting starting at 6:30 at the Pepper Mill to 5 o'clock. Please, there's information. Carol's here. Phyllis Westrup, they'll fill you in on more details. With that in mind, I'd like to have each of you that are ready for questions to come up to the mic up here one at a time. If you please would ask any of the three of them questions. And if I could ask you guys to turn on your mics, they're not on, I don't think. So please feel free, don't be shy. We want questions.
You got it.
The caucus was supposed to take place about a week or so ago. Why did it not take place?
Because our sitting leadership is trying to run the clock out and to February 2nd. That's why. I think that our sitting leadership today. So before I respond to that, I just want to ask you, Jack Nicholson once said, you can't handle the truth. I think this room can handle the truth. So do you want the truth?
Yes.
Okay. The bottom line is our leadership sitting in the Assembly Republican caucus today is afraid of losing leadership, so they're running the clock out, and that is it. And understand, I want to be crystal clear. I am okay with losing the vote to majority leadership because John Hambrick won by 13, and so if he's the 13th vote to take my majority leadership away, I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with not setting the precedents to do so. Our own governor, Governor Sandoval, voted in Pete Arnott as majority leader. Last year we had 2 votes on majority leader. So this, what took place, is definitely not okay. I might smile and say this is what's happening. However, it is not okay.
Thank you. Next question.
Yes, Assemblywoman Fiore, when you were talking about gun legislation, this is one of the things that came up when Ben Kekeffer was trying to push through some legislation. Our veterans today are afraid to go into the VA or anywhere else to get any kind of assistance with their post-traumatic stress disorder because they're afraid they're going to lose their guns. We had a young man that was so bad, my husband and I took him. He put himself into the VA because he was just at the bottom of the barrel with the PTSD. He goes to classes and he's not taking psychotropic drugs because he refuses to do so, and I understand why. But what can we do to stop this and to make sure that our veterans are permitted to have their weapons just because they're dealing with an issue that came from their service?
It's a great question. So here's what we have to do. We have to restructure the NACs that go with the NRSs to eliminate that. Understand the only reason why that's happening is because gun control individuals have controlled our electeds and have slipped these little passages in, these little laws in, through, by the way, sometimes agencies that have appointed individuals that write law. They go right into the NRS without ever going before the legislative body. One of my bills this session actually looks at that and wants to take all of the exemptions away from the people that can just write laws if they're not elected and clean this up. So how we respond to that is we literally have to go with a fine tooth and comb and look at all the legislation and eliminate everything that's been taking our gun rights away. In Clark County, we can't have foster parents foster children that are sitting there in bad places because they have a concealed weapon permit. Who do you think wrote that legislation? That's a problem.
Thank you. Next question.
This is more of a statement than a question, but when did our governor become a Democrat? We don't need our businesses taxed. What we need are our tattoo parlors highly taxed. We would solve all of our problems then. Mr. Martinez was fired. Why is he getting a new job? And wait, one more. One more question. Why did you Republicans let Ira Hansen get crucified?
One question at a time. Each of you respond. One question at a time. Each respond.
As far as Pedro Martinez goes and what the governor has done to appoint him to the superintendent of this new school district, you'd have to ask him. I have no idea what happened there or why it happened. I first heard about it at the State of the State, and I was kind of surprised myself. I'm not saying whether I support Pedro or not. I still don't have the whole story on that, but you'd have to ask the governor as to why he appointed him. If I get some answers. I don't have an answer. I'm sorry.
So talking about appointments, we definitely have to be cautious of appointments. I know in the governor's state of state, he mentioned that we needed to appoint school officials instead of elect them. I disagree wholeheartedly. We need our election with those people. And Ira Hansen is a hot subject because I worked diligently behind the scenes to get Ira elected as speaker because of his conservative views. And the heat was put on him hard. And we didn't allow Ira to get crucified. Ira allowed Ira to get crucified. He should have never stepped down. Okay? So as I was elected majority leader and the crucifying began, as you saw, I didn't allow that. And guess what happened? Our speaker of the day, John Hambrick, chose to unelect me without a position because I wasn't going to allow a certain few crucify me, including the media. So Ira is responsible for Ira stepping down. His bad.
Before the next question, what is your current status? Are you still legally majority leader? Or?
My current status, according to the speaker of the day, is I'm insubordinate, and I am the Assemblywoman of District 4, and until we actually take a vote. Oh, and I have been taken off of taxation as a chairwoman as well as a member. So they have taken the conservatives off of that taxation committee. I think we might have one left, but so all bills will be passed out of taxation, and then we will have to kill it on the floor. So as it stands today, I am just the assemblywoman from District 4 who will garner up 15 votes to stop this crap of taxation.
You do have to admit she says it how it is. Next big question.
Hello, my name is Tim Duvall. Senator, thank you. Assemblywoman, thank you for coming. And John, thank you for taking your position on Common Core. I heard a lot of talk about state power and the ability of state to direct its own destiny. I heard mention about equal doctrines concept in the Constitution and why the federal government is still treating Nevada as a territory. And in fact, but a lot of that is because the federal government does control Nevada. It's overstepped its reach. I represent an organization. I'm the Northern Nevada director. We've just, for a group called Convention of States, last night we just hit 1,596 volunteers on our database, and we're growing at the rate of about 30 a day right now. Would you consider listening to taking back the power from the federal government through a Convention of States where we propose amendments to curb some of this overreach?
Thank you for the question. So just to be crystal clear, I am always willing to listen. Always, always. So I will absolutely listen to any proposal, and then we can go from there. I don't exactly understand what your group does, so I will listen and review it from there.
I agree with Michelle. As everybody knows in this room, my door is always open. I'm willing to listen to each and every one of you anytime. And I'm willing to listen to Convention of the States or Constitutional Convention, whatever they want to call it. I know there's several organizations out there right now trying to pass some type of either just a balanced budget amendment or a Convention of the States that'll allow several amendments be proposed. Now, in a way, I support this, but in a way, I don't. I just back in Washington, D.C. I know Mark Levin has a book out on this right now. I think the name of it. Anyway, I was back there. Mark Levin was our keynote speaker for the luncheon right there. We listened to what he had to say about it. I've read his book, and I agree with a lot of things they're trying to do, but I'm not sure that this is the way to go about this, because it's, in my mind, in my opinion right now, we still are not clear as to what the rules are going to be, if the rules are going to be followed. And number one, if we are able to get a Convention of the States and get all these things passed, currently our president, Congress, elected officials are not following the Constitution. What makes you think that they will follow anything else that is presented to them?
Next question. A question here.
Just a little response. If we don't try, we'll never achieve any change. So that's my position. So if we don't try,
I understand that.
then we
I
have
don't
to
sound like a
accept what we
fatalist.
have today. So thank you.
I don't want to sound like a fatalist, but I've been around, been here a long time. I've seen what our governor is doing to us, and that's just my opinion right now.
Yeah, and I respect that opinion, Don.
Thank you.
Tom, next question.
Thank you, Ray. My name is Tom Dickman, and this is to both Don and to Michelle. First off, I want to say thank you for everything that you're doing. A comment to both of you, plus everybody in the audience here. Last Saturday, right here at the Atlantis, was a wonderful event with Rand Paul, and he started out by saying, if you were here, you remember, he started out by saying stating the reason he got into politics several years ago. That was because he was disturbed by the party prior to Barack Obama, who was responsible for increasing the size, the scope, and the cost of government more than anybody else in the history of this country, and that was the Republican Party. And I think that if we look at right here in the state of Nevada, we could say the same thing, unfortunately, for a couple of Republican governors who are doing the same thing, increasing the size, the cost, and the scope of government more than any before them. Unfortunately, it's Republicans. Now, I want to make sure that we all know that. And I want to say thank you to both Don and Michele for being here today and to taking a stand and letting us know that they are going to be mindful of our Republican principles of smaller government, lower taxes, and personal responsibility. But what I want to do is to let everybody know I'm a business owner. I have a high-tech custom manufacturing business in Sparks, and I understand and I realize the importance of a good education. However, the governor's State of the State address, when he said kind of offhandedly that for the last 10 years, fully 10% of all the schools in the state were failing, I found that to be rather disturbing. And I thought, who's responsible for that? And then I hear all this money that's going to go into schools and so on, and that's fine. However, I would like to ask both Don and Michele, can we please, before we go into just throwing more money at the problem, can we please find out the root cause of this, take care of it, get rid of the reasons, and yes, the people who are responsible for allowing that to happen, and then kind of pick up the pieces and move forward with education.
Thank you. I have to, respond wholeheartedly that Nevada's watching us. There is absolutely no way we are going to maintain a majority in the next election cycle if we don't stand firm and show Nevadans, and when I say Nevadans, I'm talking about Democrats and Republicans, because the bottom line is the Dems put us in charge too, whether it be not by showing up or voting those taxes down. I know a lot of Democrat business owners in Las Vegas that are not happy right now. They're emailing me, okay? So if we do not show Nevadans that we are capable of toeing the line and holding to our words and promises, we will not be sitting here celebrating next election cycle, okay? And we will be in big trouble. So it is up to Republicans in both houses to stand firm, to show Nevadans we've got what it takes. And I'm going to just tell you right now, session's not ending in June. Just letting you know that right now. There'll be a special session. So Tom is absolutely correct on this. We as Republicans, why do you want to be a Republican if every time Republicans have control, we grow government more and we overtax you? Why would I want to be a Republican? Nevada is looking at each and every one of us. And the bottom line is I'm not a Republican today to increase government and tax you. I'm a Republican today to decrease government and give you your money back and your guns back and get our kids off drugs.
Thank you, Michele. I don't know if I can say that any better than you did, but I do agree with you completely. And we must get back. If I had my opinion, like I mentioned earlier, we need to get the unions out of the school districts. We're not totally. We can maybe like Governor Scott Walker did. He got rid of most of the union policies that they had in there, but left the wages in and things like that. But not, first hire, last fired, or backward, but last hired, first fired. Anyway, we need to get our education system back to what it was when you and I were in school. We didn't have these problems. We were taught things. We learned, at least some of us did. We had the opportunity to learn. We were presented the materials that we need to learn. We didn't get different curriculums crammed down as every session and every year. We have to get back to a good curriculum like we had back then that will educate us. And you have civics in our schools and teach people how to read English language. And by the time they're 3 years old, if they're not, don't pass them on. They're just going to stumble and fall and get discouraged and drop out of school. It's why we have such a high dropout rate right now, because kids cannot read and understand what's presented to them. So I can talk all day on education, but there's several issues there. We need to make some major changes in. I know the governor's got some good ideas in there. There's got some I don't agree with, but they're not all going to get passed. We are going to go down there and do what we can, do what is right for everybody, including our children and grandchildren and their children.
Thank you. We have a two or three more questions, but before we have them ask their questions, want to do the drawing for the 50-50. Brian, do you have the money? And okay, let's have Patty draw the winning ticket. Patty Cafarada. No.
No, that's why you're drawing.
Or, well, if you don't want to do it, I can have Michelle or Don do it.
I have to draw my
I
own.
don't know where they are. Where are the tickets? Right here.
Right here. Brian's got them. And then we'll go back to answering questions. We realized that at 1 o'clock, some might have to leave doing work, but we can stay. Go ahead.
4705859. 59 are the last.
Anybody? Oh, we got somebody. It's a winner back there.
All right, there you go.
Sir, can you give me your name and Brian will get you the money? I couldn't hear you. What? Oh, Gary Jacobson. All right, with that in mind, we had the drawing. I didn't win. No, none of us did. Anyway, Don's next question. You're on.
It's Ken.
Ken.
Ken, what did I say? Don?
Don.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's all right, Ray.
I have a question for Ken. No.
As a person with diminished capacity, I'll try to get through this. Yeah, it's a different point. But several weeks ago, I had a email conversation with our former minority leader, and it went around about the word compromise. And I suggested to him that we need more consensus than we need compromise. My definition of compromise was backroom and pressure and or buyout. Consensus is a point where people get together and work out the differences and then say, okay, you got a little, and that's the way it goes. So hopefully down in Carson City, the time to come, we can get to consensus instead of compromise. That being said, in the assembly, which is calm and peaceful and wonderful amongst the Republicans, I commend you, Michele, because you're working on something that a lot of people probably don't pay attention to, and that is water rights. This state will not survive. We all know it's a desert unless we get water. And the Wall Street Journal had quite an article about the Colorado River and how much water is being sucked up by the federal government. So hopefully we'll do something down there about that. And I would hope that in the Republican caucus that we know that there seems to be a little dissension and a little division. I would appreciate it if maybe someone, and not you, you've had enough, someone else just kind of lets us know who these people are that are not Republican. They wear an R, but they don't do our work. And it's time for them to be outed. It's time for people to say, thank you, Mr. Jones or Ms. Smith, but you really don't believe in what we believe in. I don't mean to be confrontational with them, but I think they need to understand that we, the people, elected them. And it's a tough job, very tough job. We pay you very little to do the hard work you do. And I'm very happy that both of you work hard for me. And I didn't vote for either one of you. And if we get voter ID, I won't be able to vote for you because I can't stuff the ballot. But relative to the voter ID, you know, it's an amazing situation. But our neighbor to the south, that's Mexico, if you don't have a voter ID card, you're not going anywhere at any time. So maybe we ought to just do what they do down south. And then we can say, we're just doing what's happening down there rather than paying homage or listening to the people who want us way over to the left. We can't win. So I wish I had a question, but you know that I'm all in favor of both of you, and I want to support you 100%. And Michele, when you're ready for Italian dinners up here, I'll be very happy to put them on in my home. Thank you.
Well, we had quite a commentary there, not a question, but try to leave it as questions for the two speakers, but you had some very good commentary.
Ken, this is why I come to the meetings to get in the drawing. Hopefully I can get some money. I just sure don't get anything down there.
You guys make the big bucks, you know. Big bucks. You want Anita Cox?
Hi. I just flew thousands of miles from the country he just said on a vacation, thousands of miles to get here today, and I managed to make it. So hopefully my semi-question will make some kind of sense, but we keep saying the same things. We keep doing the same things. They, and who is they? I'll tell you in a minute. They create our questions, they create our problems, and they say the Republicans and the Democrats, and this is bad and that is good, but we've got to change the language, and that also comes with you. Change the language. We have an elitist bunch that control at least these United States, and I believe the world. And they have the same labels sometimes as we do. And we say they act like the other team, or that one acts like the other team, yet they're on the same team and they know who we are. They create it. We have to say, oh, they must be an elitist, the elitist, because they are, in my opinion, our enemy. We have to change the language that we say. They're not Republicans or they're not Democrats.
Juanita, they want to know your question.
Can you start using an elitist versus saying they're a Republican or a Democrat? Can you start doing that?
Any of the three? Go ahead.
So here's my suggestion is I got passionate about politics a decade ago because of what was happening here in Carson City. And I made my new career to end those people you're speaking of. I ended their careers by getting them unelected. So it is up to you and me and whomever else is in this room that wants to make their new careers to end the careers of the people that are not helping with Nevadans' quality of life.
Feeling lonely over here. All the questions are for the two electeds. When these experts came from out of state, they've done this in 30 other states, and what they told us after the fact, this is the worst they've ever been treated. And that is coming from Dale Urquiaga in the Department of Education. They haven't been treated this bad yet in 30 states. That's what we're up against.
Next question. Please leave it to a question. Several people
I don't have
are
much more to
asking.
say that, Juanita. We do have, I understand there's a problem there. And I don't want to do name calling really, but I just try and get down to the facts.
This is like Republican Jeopardy. Make sure you make a form of a question.
Your question, please.
My question is, I'm a business owner and I work with a lot of startup businesses and I know about bookkeeping. And right now we have a lot of untapped assets on the books of the state of Nevada. We want to pay for education. We want a better education system, but yet we have land tied up and managed by the BLM. If you do work with the BLM to release the land which we own as a state, can you earmark that for education? Stop the business tax and take the revenue you would get by releasing that land to private sales and put that into education.
Yes, Lauren, yes, we could do that. We do have a resolution that we're hopefully going to maybe pass this time. I have a little problems with it. I looked at that again yesterday as far as the constitutionality of it goes. We may have to make some fine tuning to that first, but no, we do need to get our lands back, number one. We can use that money, and some of it will be used for education. I can almost guarantee you for that, because this is one of the reasons we need to get this money back so we have taxable income coming in, not the PILT money. Pittance of PILT money that we get from that. We need to be able to use this land for Nevadans.
Don said it perfectly. That's called tax reform. Right now, we have the federal government using 84% of our lands, leasing it out, making millions. Just for instance, look at mining, what they're sitting on. You guys have no idea the rent mining pays to Washington. That money should be here. That money should go to education. And that's what we need to take back.
Next question. This will be the last question, and we have one more. Okay.
There are a few questions.
Try to
but
keep it
It'll be
as
directly to the
questions.
point. Don, I have 3 questions for you. You mentioned auditing. Why isn't auditing, instead of being done by audit, say just for dollars, why isn't being done by process companies? For example, what I mean by process is it is an environmental department. Are the people in the environmental department efficient? Can you get rid of 15% of people, 10% of people, and increase efficiency by 25%? That's my first question. Second is, why aren't school administrators, that's starting from basically principals, assistant superintendents, why aren't they homegrown from here, from Nevada? Why do we have to import them from Texas, from this state, and they're like basketball players? They come here 3 years, then they leave.
I guess Don is directed toward you.
I'm not done. My third one is, we have a lot of retiree people who are engineers, who are very well educated. And you see there's a shortage of subject matter experts, or let's say teachers who are not qualified to teach their subjects. So why isn't there a short method of becoming a teacher for a retiree or somebody who's underemployed, unemployed, to become a teacher? Whereas a normal UNR and UNLV program just to become a kindergarten teacher takes over 4 years, which is ridiculous. And the people who are teaching these kindergarten guys, that's the reason they're doing it. And this is from the educators, because it's the easiest thing to do. Those are my 3 questions. I have 2
Now,
for
if
you.
you guys
and
can remember
Okay.
all of
Then
them.
I will sit.
I'll try. To start with,
split 'em up.
I'll start with your last question first on the teachers. I agree that we need to allow teachers, people to come in and teach that are qualified, but not necessarily certified. They don't have to have a certification to have the qualification to teach. They have to have the knowledge of the subject that they are teaching in. And so we should be allowed more of those people to come in and teach. We do have some of that in our higher ed, community colleges. When you're K through 12, it's very difficult to get somebody else in there to teach unless they're certified. I think that needs to be changed. That some of the reforms we might be able to do this session, I'm not sure. As far as your audits, that's what I was talking about, is performance audits. So we go in there, get an outside auditing firm to come into each of these agencies and see it. It's not dollars. That wasn't really referring to dollars. We have audits done in every agency right now, but there's no enforcement behind them. They say they will do these things. If we find 14 things that you're out of compliance on that you should correct, they might correct 7, 8, 9, 10 of them, and they don't do the rest of them. And there's no enforcement there. So I agree we need to have somebody come in here not from out of state, but I mean, outside of the government in Nevada to audit these agencies to find out where the monies can be saved, where efficiency can be improved, not only money being saved. And the second question was, middle one?
Yes, the administrators, principals, etc.
Yes. I don't know why we don't do that. Unfortunately, I'm not on the school board, the board of regents, or whoever does the hiring there. But you need to. I'd like to. We should be homegrown here. All teachers would like to have more teachers come from Nevada and stay here in Nevada to teach in Nevada. But we want well-qualified teachers in that subject matter. As far as principals, administrators, they should be homegrown. There are some, but even Pedro, he did come back and forth in the system somewhat. I can't remember the others where they came from, but I know most of them are from out of state.
He's one of the
It's
better
like
ones.
a bidding process, vetting process.
I have 2 for you, and I'll make them very short.
Yeah, very short.
Yes. One is, why isn't it a legal requirement for every elected official in our state legislature to actually read each bill, sign a piece of paper that they've read it, and they understand the bill before they can vote on the bill? Otherwise, we become like the U.S. Congress, where not a single bill has ever been read by a single person for the last 20 years at least. Then we have a lot of federal dollars that are spent in our state and other states. And the last time where the Obama administration gave out a lot of money, a lot of roads were ripped up for no reason and rebuilt. It was wastage of federal dollars. What is the legislature going to do to make sure that these infrastructure projects are actually needed and the infrastructure is improved, not just rebuilt?
Thank you. Okay, so your first question, I concur with wholeheartedly. I literally bring up my own staff on my own dime. And this session, because it's going to be a heck of a session, I've doubled my policy directors. So I have Brian Wilson and Dan Burdish coming up with me. Simply because as an assemblywoman from the South, I sit on 4 committees, and then, so there's 10 committees. And so there's bills that go through each committee. And we have to, and we know what's coming out on the floor. Sometimes we don't know what bills are coming out on the floor at 5 o'clock the night before. So last session, I can tell you, there were 2 people in that room there were 2 people in the building after midnight, reading bills and going through that. And I'm just going to tell you that it was myself and Speaker Kirkpatrick, the Democrat speaker she read the bills. Whether we disagree on policy, she's a hardworking woman, and I'll always give her that. So it's a difficult task, but it should be a law. That's question number 1. It should absolutely be a law. How many of the Gang of 63, between 21 senators and 42 assembly people, do you think are actually going to sign on that sponsorship that they have to read the bill? Yeah, so there you go. And then
go through as a breeze, right?
Yes. And then the second question, the federal construction, you know, the funny thing I just learned yesterday in our meeting, we were talking about the lands and all of their signage and what they do. Most of the signs that the BLM are putting out there are not state approved or registered with our state of Nevada. So they're just the federal government's in our state putting signs up illegally. I have to tell you that. So with the construction portion of that, that's going to take some of our peers in Washington to work with us.
Okay, one last question. And before we do, I would like the members of the current men's club to stand up, the board members. Most of them are here. And then I'd also like to thank some of the people that have helped today, like Marion Vaughn, the president of the Republican Women of Reno, Brian and Barb Hahn, the Washoe GOP, Sherry Powell, the Ladies of Liberty. I'd like to just thank them for all the work that they've done. Now your question. And make sure it's a question.
I'm Ray Strite, and I apologize. I only have one question.
Thank God.
And this is for Senator Gustavson. Why are you proposing to increase the speed limit to 85 miles an hour?
Good question. Well, most of you in here probably know the size of my district. And that's not really the reason I want to drive that fast. It does cut my time driving. My district covers over 37,000 square miles in Nevada. I put 3,000 to 4,000 miles on my car a month just campaigning. So, but the reason, that's not really why I brought it up. I mean, it's because I was reading, you know, I do have cars that have power in them. I like to drive what is safe and reasonable to drive. And when I moved to Nevada, that was the speed limit. Was there space and reasonable or proper to drive? That was it until he implemented the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. But I just read before last session that Utah and Texas had both raised their speed limits. Utah went up to 80 miles per hour. Texas now has one stretch of highway there, even though it is a toll road, that's 85 miles per hour. They just raised that. And just since that time, we had 3 or 4 other states. Idaho, I was just up in Idaho a few months ago, and they just raised it the week before I got there. They knew I was coming, I guess, to 80. And there's a couple other states that have raised it up to 80 also. And this bill, what it does is allows the Department of Transportation and Public Safety to increase the speed limit up to 85 miles an hour. It doesn't say that they have to. It allows them to do so in sections of the roadway like Interstate 80, east of Fernley, all the way to Wendover, with the exception of Elko, because you slow down 65 now anyway, going through that part of. But this rural areas were safe and the roads are designed to handle those speeds. The studies in Texas and Utah both show that after they increased the speed limit there, the fatality rates actually went down. So, and people, and another study, in the same studies they had there as far as speed goes, the average speed limit, when it was increased 10 miles per hour from 75 to 85, the average speed after that only went up 3 miles per hour. That just shows you that people drive, number one, the speed that they're already driving. Number two, the speed that they feel that it is safe to drive at in their vehicles. Most vehicles today are made much safer than they were 10, 15 years ago. So if there's not everybody wants to drive at that speed, they don't have to. I would recommend to the Department of Transportation that they put signs up to use a left lane for passing only, so that nobody's just cruising along in 60, 65, 70 in that fast lane. That is a problem. So, but that's hopefully a long answer to a short question. Thank you. Well, I know that, and it saves my pocketbook too. No.
And get out of the way when Don's on the road.
Yeah.
Anyway, just a couple of brief announcements. Tomorrow here at the Atlantis, the Washoe Republican women have their meeting. And at the end of the month, on Wednesday, Mount Rose, Diane Roback was here. There she is having their meeting at Tamarack Junction. Marion, your next meeting, briefly.
Republican Women of Reno. Our next speaker is really going to be pretty special. It's the 12th, Thursday the 12th, and our speaker is Heidi Smith, our past president of our club and past president of she's of the National Federation too. She's going to be our speaker. Did you hear me? I wasn't talking very good.
Yes.
Heidi Smith on the 12th, and our flyer is going to be out so you can read about it. Anyway, glad to be here. Thanks, Ray.
Tom had a comment on the event coming up this Thursday.
I learned today, I think all of you did, that the national or the Nevada Federation of Republican Women's event has been changed from 6 p.m. to 5 p.m. So you have the flyer on your table, take out your pen and change it to 5 so that you remember. Otherwise you get home and you look at it and say, it's going to conflict with the Washoe County Central Committee meeting at 6:30. So you can go to both as it works out. Also, for those of you who wish to know more about Article 5 of the Constitution and the ability to have a constitutional amendment convention, if you go to the Voter Education for Nevada website, which is voterednv.org, Randy Lloyd has put a very positive, I don't mean positive to him supporting that or negative to him being against it, but a very positive dissertation about what Article 5 of the Constitution says. This coming Thursday, 11:30, on 101.3 FM, Conversations from the Capitol, Sean Meehan and Jim DeGraffenreid will be talking about Article 5. They are in opposition to Article 5. Every Thursday from 11 to 1, Conversations from the Capitol are heard live on 101.3. It's replayed Saturday from 12 to 2, 101.3, again from 3 to 5 on 99.1. And then for those of you who can't sleep on Saturday nights, early Sunday morning from 3 to 5, you can go to americamatters.us and you can find that all of the programs have been archived. So we've had pros and cons in Article 5 all the way through, and we will again. Thank you.
I just want to thank everybody. I know we ran a little longer than normal. We tried to be done by 1, but we had a great meeting on the 17th here at the Atlantis. Our next meeting One, to thank Gary Martin. We just have a little something for our two speakers. Just a little thank you. And thank all of you for coming. You're welcome to stay and chat with them and ask questions one-on-one. And I thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Let's show our appreciation for our speakers today. I think they did a great job. Appreciate them taking their time out of their busy schedules to be here. So I thank you all for coming as well. I think we had a good meeting today.
Oh, I'm sorry. One more. Good. Good. You guys did a great job.
Thank you.
I asked a lot of people.
Thanks for being here, Don. We dug deeply into our reserves.
Well, you get lunch. Gift card for Starbucks. And so I was sure
on those days when you're getting all those constituent calls, really, it's getting late in the day, maybe they don't know.
You know that one woman said that when did I don't know if we can really
It's not a big deal, but it's just a remembering for things.
Of course you can.
$25.
Support Starbucks for $25.
Yeah.
Don, thank you, but I actually have a question.
Okay.
Do you support the idea that the government is proposing to have an all-day kindergarten?
I mentioned that, I thought.
I can't believe it's coming from his mouth.
I know.
Thank you. That was really fast. I should have stood up there while everybody was pontificating.
Well, all right. Thanks, Michelle.
Michelle, I'm sorry about
Hey,
you.
Dawn.
J.D. Lyon. And I actually have a question.
Hey, great. Dawn, okay. Michelle was saying that she could get enough votes in the assembly to stop the taxes. What about can you do that in the, no. What do you think about your leadership? Your leadership, Roberson says, we're going to pass this tax.
Well, people can talk strongly, but, we are a body of 63 people. We have to agree or disagree on where the individual is anything before it's passed. That's because you have to have the majority of each house to pass anything. I don't know. I don't believe we can stop taxes on the Senate side. There's a possibility they can on the Senate side.
Okay. You've been through a lot of legislation. Do you agree with Michelle that there's going to be a special session after this regular session?
I'm not looking for a special session. That's a possibility. I have no idea what we have to. Hopefully, I don't have a special session. My goal is to get out of the room. I'm going to start my committee and have a bill. I don't think possible. By the second week.
Okay. You talk today goes against what Governor Sandoval proposed. Explain it to me.
Well, Governor Sandoval expected very much the industry. That's not a good idea. Collective reform, collective bargaining, reform, but I haven't seen the bill yet, so it's not clear whether I support it or not. What he said
Okay, but not about tax rates or taxes.
Job that never can talk about it. Don't wait to or 2 per year before they close those schools or the government close and turn them over to charter schools. They also need to open those up to private enterprise. Let them sell the schools to private enterprise. School districts get back some of the money they need elsewhere for curriculum and something else. Okay. There are ways to do it. Okay. All right, Don. Okay.
I like your 85 miles an hour.
Thank you. Every time I go to Vegas, well, it won't be on 95. But because it's only being divided highways, controlled highways. There's
gotta be
75 now. It's some areas it might make, but like 2-lane roads they don't because it's passing everything else.
I mean, you can do it.
Wait till they build I-11. You and I won't be here by the time that happens.
What do you drive?
I drive 2 Camaros, actually. Yeah. One's a 69, which I bought brand new. I have a 99.
An RS or what is it?
No, just stock. Yeah. I didn't have the money at that time.
Have you been watching the Bear Jackson auction down in Scottsdale?
No,
all print stuff.
I don't have turn TV on hardly except to see the news at night a little bit.
A lot of money.
Oh yeah, I saw the auction down there. I saw the first one they had here. I have seen them on TV.
I drive it. Well, not legally.
Thank you for.
I base my speed upon the speed limit.
I do too. So much above it.
Above it. Right.
You got it. I'll give you a call, and when we have some time, I'll get a little practice for you.
Oh, okay. Great.
That's a little one-on-one.
Okay. Great. Right?
Oh, he and I are together.
Okay.
Well, in this.
Oh yeah, that one.
But it is growing.
I don't know, Don. Unless I can talk to you and discuss this with you, we're not all market events. We're not all.
Oh, no, I understand.
No.
But you see, the thing
tell people that.
that bothers you, Don, it does honestly, because I'm running into other people like yourself who are well versed in stuff, and they throw it in the towel. And I elect you, or people like you, okay, not to throw it in the towel, because we cannot do this unless the federal government amends the Constitution. As the Supreme Court keeps coming down with these decisions, I mean, that unless the Constitution is amended, and Congress will not do it, there is no other way to do this.
I'm not totally against the idea. I'm open. I'm willing to listen. When we get to the point that actually happens, I might support it. I don't know that.
That's all I
Here's
want.
what Don, here's what we're doing. Okay, 50 states. We're really doing this in all the legislatures. We're just one of 50. Tim and I and Rick Crane down in Vegas. Okay, and actually there's quite a number of other leaders. There's captains and postdocs. Okay? There's a lot of us doing it. But in every state they've got this. Right now, if we don't get a bill, okay, to our legislature, and if they are able to do what they're hoping to, they're really ramping up. At some point, there's a good chance that there will be a convention called. The question will be, since Nevada didn't do it, how much say are we really going to have at a convention? And I'm concerned about it. If anybody should be in the convention, it should be Nevada. We are the most independent, most get out of our lives state.
That's why I brought my company here to Sparks from California. It's been real successful for the last
good.
You're right.
Now they keep raising their taxes.
Medical supply.
Medical device.
Okay.
Actually, we're the only one in our sector that is.
Are you really?
Right.
Manufacturing.
Where are you from?
Moved it over from Fremont.
Oh, Fremont.
That was 2 years ago. Didn't look bad.
I have a cousin.
Hired all new people here, trained them, they got a great crew, and making great products.
So I laughed on when you talked about the 85. And I remember you were a truck driver. I remember you did that. He's a truck driver. This guy knows the road.
Truck drivers generally don't drive that speed. A lot of these trucks are higher speed goes more fuel than you. And some of your trucks are designed for higher speed. They do that. A lot of them have limiters on there that they can't.
No. Insurance. Well, the insurance companies require that they do it because they're concerned about the liability.
And the only opponents I had with that bill last time was national trucking safety. We have differential on speeds and stuff like that.
Did you do a helmet bill this session?
I am.
I didn't hear about it yet. That's why.
Oh, yeah. No, what I'm going through is like, now that we have a majority, and the person who killed the bill last time is supposedly not going to interfere, so.
Good to see you again. Thanks, Tom. Glad you came. You're good.
Oh, yes, yeah. Get outside here.
Senator, how are you?